Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. So I wanted to talk this week about this conference because I went back to this first live event. It was the Advanced Search Summit in Napa, California, which is only about an hour north of where I live. So I drove, and I had been scheduled to speak at it in 2019, and they just rolled everybody over to 2021. So I went. And it was really interesting to be at a live event now after all of this, because I've been telling people I can't make small talk anymore. And I was really sort of nervous to see people and how, I've gained weight. How is that going to be? Anyway, so it was at once really familiar and very strange at the same time. So it was great to see some of the people. People seemed genuinely happy to be together. There was a lot of joyful kind of socializing. The mask enforcement was really inconsistent, which was very strange. I mean, people were supposed to wear masks inside, and half the people weren't. At the social events, which were sort of the main emphasis of this get together, people were drinking and close talking and standing toe to toe, and there was very little distancing or recognition of that even, and people sort of essentially treating the whole thing as though it's all in the past. But there were some initial interesting conversations with people about how weird it was to be back together in this kind of a situation. And then sort of by day 2, and now it's on day 3, I came back yesterday, people are just back in the mode. It seemed like everybody sort of snapped back into business development, schmoozing, deal making mode, it remained very strange to me. But what's clear is that people are going to come back to conferences in a big way, because you simply cannot get the value that you get from interacting in person in a virtual event. So,
but you said content became secondary. I mean, do you think that?
So at this particular event, people were not that interested in hearing the content. I mean, that's often true for people who come to conferences to network. They don't sit in on the sessions, but it really seemed that way here. It really seemed that people were it was almost like people were attending the conference either because they'd made the previous commitment and this was simply the fulfillment of that, or it was a novelty experience. Wow, here's a live event that we can go to, and it's got some of these cool socializing, cool networking events around it. But
were there any vaccine passport requirements at all, or honor system?
No, in theory, you were supposed to be either bring your vaccine card or a vaccination card, or have evidence of a negative COVID test. But when I got there, nobody enforced anything. I had my card. I was ready to show it to people. Nobody enforced anything. So I guess the assumption is that everybody complied with that. But as an interesting point, just in my session, which was on review fraud, there was a woman who asked a question at the end who said that her company had taken over a business. She didn't say who they were or who the business was that they'd taken over. But almost all of their reviews, which were mostly 5-star reviews, were fake and had been paid for. And she didn't know what to do now, because should she take down her own reviews? Or, what I said to her was, initiate your own program and then talk to somebody at Google, talk to a Google rep about how to handle it, because she wanted to do the right thing. But if she removed all her reviews right away, there would have been a kind of an immediate hit probably to their traffic. But it was validation of one of the points that I was making, which is the most common type of reviews are business owner fraud. It's like either getting friends and family or employees to write the reviews, or paying for somebody to do that. So that was kind of interesting that she came in and saw that all their reviews were bogus and had been bought, But it was great to see people at this event, and I am not emotionally or physically prepared to go right back into the conference circuit. It was weird to get into the hotel room. It was just all the familiar routines that everybody does were just, I'm not quite ready for that,
I have so loved not traveling. In retrospect, I was traveling too much. I was traveling almost once a month, and it was too much. And now the question becomes, what's right travel? And I decided I'm not even going to address the question during the summer, and I'll deal with it in the fall.
Well, this is, I think, where people are going to be. I think people will be discriminating about the events that they go to. They'll want to go to high quality events where they're going to get a lot of meetings, or there's somebody they really want to see, or there's they really want to present. People used to go to a lot of events, and I think there will be a sort of a threshold, and then a lot of the sort of lesser events may not continue. So either really big events where you're going to get a lot of efficiency, or really sort of boutique events where there's a high quality interaction. And it was nice that this event was relatively small. It made for better kind of interaction with people. So
I'm thinking about your comment about networking, people not really there for the content. And Mike, I remember the Syndic conference you and I went to in Valencia in 2017 or something like that. Not that it was all networking, but I think that they did such a good job of structured networking events at that show, Kimberly and her team. And I think that, to your point, Greg, is probably what people are craving most right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
More than any tactical tips to grow their business or whatever. So I think that's...
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that means you should rethink how you structure a conference.
Yes.
The relative weight of content versus networking and what that means.
So I do think, I think that's an excellent point. And I do think it means fundamentally rethinking what a conference is, and really, there's a lot of tension between content and networking very often at conferences, because people pull out of the sessions to go network because there's not enough networking time. And the Europeans Kimberly does do a great job with the structured networking. And at this conference, they did a pretty good job with that. But I think there's kind of hunger for real information at conferences, not just the blah, blah, blah that you get in a lot of presentations. So if you can create group discussions or, sort of AMAs or some sort of short presentation with a lot of engagement, that kind of format is going to be better than the standard, here's 1 million stats and our sales pitch, that kind of perfunctory stuff that you get at a lot of shows.
Yeah, I mean, where I'm thinking about is local U, right, which has always been leading edge content, tactical content that has been developed over the past period of time.
That's a little bit different. That's a little bit of an exception. Yeah.
But I'm wondering, even there, whether which it's been intensely content driven, right? 8 hours straight of content.
But with two big networking events, night before and night of. So, yeah.
Right. But the question is whether that should even be ameliorated further, right? I mean, particularly the first one back, should there be a much more conscious effort at networking during the day, or whatever. I don't know.
Well, there's also going to be like a transition period where the novelty of being in person people will be especially hungry to be in person with one another. And then over time, I think that will fade, and we'll be back to some sort of regular conference mode or cadence.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I went to the barber the other day, and I was aghast to find out that my barber, after telling me not to take my mask off, that he wasn't vaccinated and he wasn't going to get vaccinated. It's like, oh my God, what did I do? I sat down the seat. But it brings out this whole stress, though, that every aspect of society is going through, whether it's merchants and consumers or conferences and consumers. So it's going to be I think a growth business right now would be psychology, counseling.
Well, I think what's really weird is people not knowing whether to wear the mask or not wear the mask, and a lot of the sort of whatever your peer group is doing in the situation determines your behavior. I mean, it's very hard to be the only person wearing a mask if everybody else isn't wearing a mask.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
So, all right. On that note, we will conclude. This is number 15. Is that right?
No, it's
16,
much 19 or something.
19.
Oh my God.
19, I think.
Where have I been? All right. Number 19.
Time flies, Greg. Time flies.
You've been caught in a COVID time vortex.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well,
anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. Yeah.
Have a good weekend or rest of your week, wherever you are.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.